What an entrance. Welcome back, everybody. What is up? This is the Few Podcast, where we're going to be talking the latest Web3 news, get some hot takes, and talk about the week in Web3. So welcome back, everybody. What's going on?
Lots of stuff going on in the world of crypto this week. Excited to hear Daddy Judas's take on what we should be doing on the Solana network.
Alex, what's good with you, buddy?
I'm good. I can't like comment in the thing anymore because I think I'm like streaming this to Twitter and LinkedIn, but maybe it's not letting me chat on the YouTube channel anymore. It's weird. Anyway, it's been a good week. I want to continue the conversation we were just having about LinkedIn audiences here.
Yeah. But before we get into that, let's just talk a moment about how I got fished this past week and lost 20 NFTs.
That needs a deep dive. All right.
Yeah.
So for anyone who doesn't know,
first of all, I was most excited by the reaction. You know, you shared it in a Slack group that we share with, 30 to 35 sophisticated crypto individuals, 15 of whom immediately said, "Oh my gosh, Anoop, I'm so sorry. That's devastating." And I was like, "Man, you're not getting that money back. How much? Like 15 ETH? Like, get over it and don't do that again."
It actually made me laugh that you were just like, "Yeah, no, it's not worth your time. Let's go make you some more money."
Exactly.
That became my approach. Actually, like I was sad for an hour, but I think this is going to be my third crypto cycle. This is the first time that it's happened. And I think I've had my guard up. I've been like making extra wallets, making sure I don't sign transactions. But I think as the markets have evolved, right? Like we never got email phishing attacks that were fucking good before. And this was like on Superhuman, right? Like on the Superhuman app, like the email app, the Nansen email that came in made me think that Nansen just had a great upgrade. And that like I was going to see some V2 features because I've been waiting for them to launch something. And as soon as I hit authorize, I see on my phone, like on Zerion, just 20 NFTs have been sent. And I was like, oh, fuck. And I have a 10-month-old. And so I was sitting there with the 10-month-old. And I'm looking around. I got to watch this kid. I'm trying to get to my phone. I called my wife. "You must take Zane now." And she goes, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I don't know. I fucked up. And like that moment where you realize it's your fault, you fucked up, and there's no fixing this. You're just fucking out.
So did you drop the baby is the key question here.
I ran him over to the bedroom and I was like, "Take him. I need to sit here." And I whipped out the laptop and I was like, "What just happened?"
Anoop, I'll tell you though, like it's interesting because it's not even necessarily about the amount. Like if it's like, unless it's a material amount, that's a different story. But like it's violating, like it's like painfully violating that you've lost something and it's been taken from you. Like I remember like there was an NFT once. It was very early on for me that I did a deal with someone, sent it first. Guy disappeared. I forgot what it was. And it was like one of my first early NFT deals. I'm like, I've never sent another one first again. But I hated that NFT. Like, I remember hating the project, hating everything about everything that was to do with it because it just was so like debilitating. Yeah, I agree. I think the 20K is like the max there of like where you're. Before it really, really pains.
Yeah, it
was like.
I mean, the feelings. Yeah, the feeling's the worst though. Like because. When I got SIM swapped, right? Because I didn't lose anything. But I didn't lose anything. I didn't lose. All my stuff was locked up.
Oh, yeah,
my shit's good. I didn't lose a cent. Although everyone who was DMing with me that like, because the guy was sort of smart. He just continued conversations with people that I was DMing with, and then said, "Hey, we have something coming out. Here it is." So like, he tricked them. But I didn't lose anything. But the feeling of helplessness especially when I like woke up and my like phone wasn't working, and man, that was rough. It was rough, but I feel you, Anoop. But
all of this is
I saw what they stole though. They didn't steal even your most valuable ones.
I mean, there's not a lot left in that wallet. It was anything that had approval on Blur. So it was interesting. It was all based on things that were approved on Blur. when I signed the transaction to like sign into Nansen, I signed the approval for the transfer of all of those NFTs, apparently, somehow. Still really don't. I was like reading through the code base and kind of trying to understand it. But all of this is to say, this is like my third cycle. You guys are probably in like the same second, third cycles. In previous iterations, people knew that there was money to be made, money to be stolen in the world of Web3 and crypto. But now we have not just like the engineers, but we have the marketers, we have the business people. We have so many more people working in the industry. And so the hacks are going to get more, they're going to get more complex. And the phishing attacks, I mean, it was a spot on email. It was spot on.
I don't even know. I don't actually know I know there's a lot of companies that are working on various different things, but like, there's not really a clear answer. And I think this like space is really going to need a solution to this problem before like my dad is afraid to touch anything in crypto because he just knows it'll be stolen. Like he's just like, I'm gonna fuck something up. So like, I don't know. I mean, Mike, I don't know if you're seeing anything in the venture market, but like, have you seen anything that like, who's done something pretty interesting? And I haven't tested it yet, but in concept and in theory, it makes sense. The Webacy guys with like the one-click button and it's like the emergency button and it immediately sends everything out into another wallet if there's any kind of alert or anything that looks fishy. But I haven't tested it. But
yeah, I haven't
Mike, have you seen
that. I've seen wallets moving and extensions. Again, you have to trust the extension because the extensions can do funny things. But certainly the Fire guys have a pretty good extension that basically, and MetaMask actually is building this natively as well. That previews the transaction so you can kind of make a determination of whether it looks normal. The challenge right now is I think most of these hacks are still happening on, hot wallets, where people are acting, kind of rapidly and basically just getting drained of whatever's in the hot wallet. In some cases, unfortunately, they have too much money there. The interfaces on desktop are better. The security tools right now are candidly better on desktop because you have these extensions, the ability to preview. You're usually being more deliberate. But let's be honest, if we're going to get the next couple 100 million people using crypto apps, it's happening on mobile. And we need, more sophisticated and protected schemes, interaction methods, because people think today it's okay to click a link. It's okay, to download a PDF. And those are the types of things, particularly on Android devices where you might have some risks.
Yeah, it's definitely scary. All right, let's jump right in. Alex, you wanted to talk today about Beanie. I wanted to hear what's your hot Beanie take?
No, I mean, he sort of has calmed down on his post for a few months. He came back and he was like talking a lot. I've always appreciated. I think he was one of like sort of the early like just voices of just trying stuff, right? Like, I think he, even like some of the ideas, like the free NFT meta was like him early on. Definitely was probably an inspiration for like Caesar and I when we were starting to think about Goblin Town. And I just think that like when you look back at like what he did in the space, right? And then like what other people have done since, it's like feels like he got screwed in a lot of ways, but also he got kicked out at the time where he sold the top. So like, but I don't think.
Can you give a background on Beanie? Because right, like we know Beanie, right? We've been in the thick of this.
Yeah.
I don't think everyone at large understands the saga of Beanie.
Yeah, no. So I mean, just from my knowledge of him, because I didn't know him before, I don't even know who he is as a person. All I know is his sort of like persona. He was very involved in Pixel Vault. He was very involved in Wolf Game. I think things he gets like that he was involved with that he like, I know there's some tweets of his that he like with like Bloot, right? Like he didn't make Bloot. It was this free thing that like went up and then went down and everyone got mad at him because he got like 1/5 of it for free.
Oh, dude, I'm mad at me. First of all, I'm mad at myself for that. I bought a fucking Bloot that said like cock ring. I think I spent $1.5 on it.
I remember
because Beanie was like, my life is going into this. Like, if Beanie's life is on the line, I'll throw $1.5 each.
I mean, it's one of the greatest copy pastas of all time. Everything I do from here on will be accruing value to Bloot.
Yeah. But he definitely. So he was a personality in the space. He was pretty early on in terms of punks, and just he was just known for just experimenting and sharing his thoughts. Pretty, But I didn't find him to be like. I think he calmed down a little bit when he came back, but I never found him to be like poo-pooing anyone necessarily. He definitely was like, oh, I don't like this or I don't like that, but I didn't find him to be like necessarily a bad actor compared to what we see like a Ben.eth or someone who's literally like I don't think he was ever involved with like a rug pull, like in the sense of like launching something just to extract money and go. I think he was always about building, really. And
if I'm not mistaken, there was, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, there was someone put out a big report, a big analysis on who Beanie was. And, like,
NFT ethics.
And there was,
the ethics.
It was NFT ethics. Yeah. That report was like, it was damaging. But when I went through it, I never felt like, oh my God, this guy is just absolutely the devil. Like, I felt like, listen, he's a hustler who's like kind of made some shit businesses and he's a little bit sketchy. I didn't look into it enough, but I will say that my opinion of him has always been that I think he's pretty informed and has a great instinct about Web3 and NFTs. I think he has a good, for whatever it's worth, like I've had a bunch of conversations with him, and I always thought that he had a good pulse on the space. He had good instincts, had good vision for what works and what doesn't. And you know what? Listen, that guy got paid out well on those decisions and got paid out at the right time. Now, granted, it wasn't the way he wanted to get paid out, but it ended up working out definitely in his benefit. But yeah, ultimately, I thought that he's been someone whose opinions I value to an extent way more than half of the people that have reach on Twitter and Web3 that just spew shit to create drama. I can't
every day. That's it. Yeah. No, I mean, my take on him is just like, I think it's better when he's sharing his ideas and posting than when he's not. I'm usually of the take that like generally anyone who is intelligent and has good ideas should be just sharing their stuff because that's how the space grows. That's how people learn. That's how people get inspired. So I don't know. Anoop, I know you knew him before, so you have a different take on him.
I mean, so when like NFT Ethics tweeted his name out, I was like, I've seen this before. I've seen this guy's name. And I went through Facebook messages, right? And I had met this guy in 2015, 2016. And I just remember like sitting next to my co-founder at the time being like, this is the most disgusting human I've ever met. And like the conversations about like, he lived in like Costa Rica, was doing like drug mills, or I don't even know like what kind of crazy shit. But like, he like went through the list.
Allegedly,
right? But like, I was not surprised that the person that I had spoken to on that Facebook message was also the person who became Beanie Max. Like that made sense because it was someone who, I genuinely, like I turned to my co-founder at that time and was like, this is the worst person I've ever spoken to. And like, then seeing the NFT ethics post and I messaged you guys and was like, holy shit, it's the same dude. So
I tried to drop I'm on the thread right now. I was going to drop it. I was going to drop it in the comments. I don't know if it's allowed.
NFT ethics also went away a few months later. Do you remember there was some like scandalous post that they did?
I think NFT ethics was doing like some great reporting, and then they come after you or like Drew? Didn't they come after some of our friends?
No, they did a thread on me.
They went right off the cliff, and they also made me rethink all their posts before because I was like.
What do you guys? Speaking of NFT ethics, what do you guys think of what is his name? Zach XBT. Zach XBT, because like he gets there was an interesting post about him recently that like he said, "Hey, don't buy this," and everyone who held it was furious because it completely tanked the thing. But he was saying, "Here's evidence of why this is shady." So I'm saying, "Don't buy it because it's shady." And everyone's like, "Well, this guy could have shorted the market." Blah blah blah. I actually think that like he's done a pretty damn good job for all intents and purposes.
There should be zero contra. I mean, I'm particularly, passionate about these kinds of things because, having run the block and having seen really good journalists and folks, be attacked for like verifiable truth that they report. Having been threatened with lawsuits by some of the most powerful and wealthiest folks
Dude,
the
the Judas
space
coin.
and this 20
Judas coin.
Judas coin.
So sorry, not referring to that incident. I'm referring to like 2018, 19. That incident, as far as public is concerned,
by the way, we got to do a deep dive onto that one, dude. That shit was hysterical.
Nothing happened there actually that I can talk about. That was a blissful and peaceful ending. But the point is the general tenor, like you need people like Zach. And look, people have financial interests. They're going to get wrecked by people being honest. And Zach, to date, from everything I've seen, has backed up, the statements, assertions, allegations that he's made with factual evidence. And particularly in this case, the thing that he said was not this particular project is going to be a rug. It was, there is definitive evidence that this person has done something in the past that was unethical in my eyes. And here's the evidence. I see no reason why he should not say that publicly. Like, that is protecting additional people from being lured into something that has the potential to end badly based on previous evidence. And so, Zach's in the right. And of course you could be upset, that you lost money on it, but hey, nobody forced you to ape into a meme coin without doing any research. That's kind of my perspective on that.
I think that's a fair take. All right. Moving, any last words on the Beanie situation?
Free Beanie. No.
Free Beanie. All right.
I want him posting more.
I enjoy, exactly like Alex. I enjoy his commentary. Separate from the persona and separate from the past. An extremely thoughtful person who both identified and was able to create marketing hype and value for projects. And I think he's wrong a lot of the time, but it's very interesting to hear how he thinks, and I hope he continues to share more publicly, and that people look at the message versus the messenger in his particular case.
Agreed. All right, let's get into the rise of the Jupiter exchange, because I've been hearing everyone been talking about this this new is it a DEX or is it a
so Jupiter is effectively the 1 inch, sort of the aggregator of Solana, the dominant aggregator. But because Solana is so basically works like butter, it's smooth, like low fees, rapid transactions. Disclosure: I do have a Solana position professionally, and I invest in a number of early stage Solana companies.
Mike, are you investor in Jupiter by any chance?
So, no, to my knowledge, there is no institutional investment in Jupiter, to my knowledge, and that's what's one of these really cool things. And I could be wrong, but I believe that it is an organic project that I don't know exactly how it was funded. Maybe angels, maybe self-funded. But what's exciting is it's a project that basically delivered through the bear, and it. I could see them, by the way, right now we'll call it an aggregator, but they just added a perps product, and I could actually see them going, I guess that would be vertical and competing and horizontal and competing with some of the folks that they currently direct volume to. But, we're investors in Orca, which it's I think the largest DEX by volume on Solana. Certainly over the last couple of months, it has been. It's growing rapidly. So Jupiter routes you to Radium, to Orca, to OpenBook, and to other protocols where there's liquidity to fulfill your trade. So it's like basically Jupiter is 1 inch, Orca is Uniswap. That being said, because the experience is so good, retail goes to Jupiter quite a bit. Unlike on Ethereum, where people tend to direct type Uniswap more often, at least retail does.
Yeah. And can you explain what the perp the perp protocol does and what that is for people that aren't familiar?
Oh yeah, perps just basically allow you. I mean, it's instead of an option, it's basically the ability to kind of like do either leverage positions and or to do future like options, long or short things at a future date. Okay, but perps are like they're a perpetual product. We should actually do like a Perps 101. Their crypto native product. I think BitMEX was the first exchange that really had them. But what it means is you can basically, say short a product or a coin, and instead of it being, a short that hits at a certain price on a certain date, you just pay a perpetual funding rate to keep the trade on in the long term. Okay. So in other words, if
I knew you've done some of that, right?
Yeah. Why don't you actually talk about it? Dude? You actually are a bit more of a perps trader than I am.
Yeah. So I haven't done it successfully where I've made a positive return. So
basically you are the 90%.
I am the 90% that gets liquidated. So a perpetual trading market, like trading perps, you're leveraging. And so one of the things I've found out, and I don't remember who tweeted about this, but they said, make a new account. I was like, oh shit, that's an easy and funny thing to do to not get your other positions liquidated. So if you want to take a 10x long or 100x long on Solana or Bitcoin or Ethereum, make a new Solana wallet, transfer that shit over and allow that wallet to get liquidated if it does, but your other assets don't get liquidated. Stupid, simple thing to learn. But across the board, we're seeing, in Arbitrum, Cosmos, on Sui, ETH, we're moving into two areas that are interesting. It's liquid staking and then perp trading. And it's really this focus on the DeFi ecosystem where they're taking $1, making it into like 40 billion and then betting on that. And I think it's kind of fascinating how, I don't know how any of this shit works, right? Like if you have $10 and they're letting you leverage it to a 100x trade and you get liquidated, like what is the math of where money comes from, right? Like this goes back to my questions, back in the era of Celsius of like, where does it all come from?
The insurance fund, Anoop, the insurance fund.
Is that really I've seen it.
Yeah, the idea is that they basically take such, onerous fees from you, with these funding rates that in the end they've got this insane profit basin such that if they do ultimately get wrecked on a specific directional trade, they can make people whole out of that insurance fund.
Got it. So, okay, the other thing we're talking about with this is that it's stimmy season. And so stimmy season
I was just about to bring that up.
Is a great time where if you have interacted with any of these platforms, you're going to get a stimmy. And so I posted here. Jason, could you post it in the YouTube? Because I can't because I
block.
No, not the block article. The founder of Jupiter, who is an anon, right? Like weird. Solana just has a lot of this, which is always confused. But
he's a real person. He did make a presentation at Breakpoint. Yeah, he's doxed.
Yeah, he's doxed, but like he's still like anon in a weird way. But so he tweeted, and it's actually a phenomenal tweet of his breakdown of how he did his stimmy allocations and the distribution of like the amount of wallets that are above 1 million in trading volume, between 250 and a million, the amount of transactions. I mean, the level of detail that he's given versus like these mega massive venture funded platforms are like VCs 12%, community 14%. We're just going to pick some numbers out of a hat and break it out. This was actually this was a long ass tweet. I read through it and I felt like I learned about his thought process on this stimmy allocation. And this might be one of the stimmies that I don't immediately sell when it hits the market because of the thoughtfulness of the way that he's doing his breakdown.
It's funny you say that. It's actually the way that he described his breakdown and the thoughtfulness and the appreciation for that is exactly what I felt when Jack Butcher came out with his O'Peppin's strategy and laid out his strategy. And I was like so impressed by the thoughtfulness that went into it and the complexity and the nuance that like I respected it to the point where I was like, you know what, this is a guy I want to bet on, and I'm not just going to throw it away because I think it was really well thought through. Good, there's something to be said for that, to really come out and put that message out there. But for those that don't know, the Jupiter, I'm just going to give you some news quickly from the block. the Jupiter DEX aggregator Solana announced a retrospective airdrop to reward early users. 40% of Jupiter's 10 billion tokens are going to be distributed as airdrops in 4 different phases. The first phase involves 1 billion tokens to users with a minimum of 1,000 swap volume. So that's going to be the first major release. That I believe that snapshot was taken on November 2nd. There's 955,000 wallets that are eligible for that airdrop, but the remainder is all for future engagement, which I think is also very smart. So, and do we know when their token? Do we have any idea on the TGE on when the token comes
on
out?
Jupiter?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe I want to say the 20th is when.
Yeah, I think it's the same day they do distributions.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Got it. Okay. So just so everyone knows, like that's now out, that information is out there. It's public. It's ready to rock and roll. All right. Let's keep it rolling. Alex.
By the way, just one last thing about Jupiter is I have faded generational wealth by just not listening to do this again.
Again.
So. Yeah. We gotta.
I haven't paid attention to any of that stuff, and I know I'm just gonna.
I've been beating the drum for 10 months and saying, "Hey, use the chain."
No, I know.
The good news is if you start using the chain now, DeFi season 2 is definitely coming to Solana. It's a set of projects. We could talk more about it in depth maybe next week or in a couple weeks. But it's a set of products of really good, authentic teams. And the historical knock, and rightfully so, on Solana was a lot of deeply VC heavy, SAM coins with that would issue at really high, fully diluted valuations and very low public float. And what's exciting about Jupiter is, it's the first, and I think there's going to be a bunch more with much more fair launches and teams that literally built through a bear market. That's what you want to see. And by the way, Solana's not the only chain where that's the case. I mean, you've got Optimism, you've got Arbitrum. It's just a really exciting time.
And by the way, before we move on, speaking of Solana for a second, Anoop and I were joking before you guys got in here when we were chatting, was that now you look at like DeGods, they left Solana at the low. Yeah. Then from ETH, they're down about 70-ish%. And Solana's up like 4 or 5x since then. So it's rough. It's got
Mad Lads, Solana's top project now, flipped DeGods yesterday. So that was fascinating.
Yeah.
We could have a conversation for like an hour about like the choices that Frank and Luca have made, and kind of being the bear market icon builders, and then the choices they made and how they reflect how effective those choices are now. But we'll save that for another time. I think we move into the world of Disney NFTs.
Let's talk to Disney NFTs for a minute.
I'm sorry, they're not NFTs, guys.
Exactly. I was just going to say it was Disney pins. They're not called
digital pins.
Digital pins.
So what's funny is like 20 plus years ago, I worked at Disney from 2001 to 2004. A couple people, I worked in corporate strategic planning, well hated by all the operating units. We looked over their shoulders. But one of my buddies saw this. He's an LP in Six Man Ventures. He's a writer, Hollywood writer, but at the time he was working at Disney in the strategy group, and he was working on the consumer products team that introduced the physical pins. And like people love these things; they collect them. They're massive. I mean, it's certainly clever to turn these digital, and we have friends, who are doing it, Cryptoys, but it reminds me of Top Shot. So I'll kick it over to you guys because I actually more of a collector like this, Drew.
Yeah, I actually think this was the perfect product to release for Disney, because this isn't about new IP. This isn't about some big, massive utility. When you buy a pin, it's purely understood as a collector's item. You're buying it to collect. You're buying it to display. So they're really playing into the lowest hanging fruit opportunity that they could take all the IP that they've had in existence and sell these different formats of collectibles and different rarities. And people who collect pins, it's a very easily relatable experience. Just like for me, when I bought basketball cards and then going to NBA Top Shot, that was very easily understandable. I didn't need anything more than a digital version of that to understand its collectible potential and value. So I actually think that was for example, Cryptoys, they have a lot more responsibility to deliver experiences and utility and much more investment into development that's required. And this is a really nice low-hanging fruit opportunity, I think, for Disney to bring more people into Web3, which is always what we're all supportive of. Anoop, I know you've done a bunch of these brand type deals. What are your thoughts on it?
So I think them choosing Flow first and foremost is an interesting choice. It actually makes sense to me that they chose Flow because of Flow's experience with NBA Top Shot and the issues that they've had. And so, right, Drew, you've tweeted about like, I wish I could just use my credit card. I wish I could just like make this shit easy. And NBA Top Shot has done a tremendous amount of volume. But with that's more important. It's a lot of user experience that they've learned about and learning about the non-Web3 audience. And so I think where it gets interesting with Disney digital pins and really a lot of this brand work is how do you make it where it's not a Web3 experience? It's, backed and powered by Web3, but it really looks and feels like a Web2 experience, because that's how you're going to get these people who, have Disney season pass memberships. And I'm going to Disney at the end of December, and I started reading into this. There's the legend and the aura of brands like Disney is that like you have adults who travel to Disney without children, right? Like we all have kids.
Yeah,
I can't imagine going to Disney World though, like me and my wife, and then collecting pins while there. And like they go for that pursuit of like getting these like collectors pins and stuff. And so it's a very interesting market. And one of the things that kind of it makes me excited about this is you're already starting with a market that has high disposable income. Right. So like in order to go to Disney World is expensive. To buy Disney World tickets is expensive. To buy digital pins, whatever they price it at, is going to be cheap in relation to going to Disney World. And so you're already starting with an audience that has a high disposable income amount. And that's exciting from like a trader's perspective, from our perspective. But I don't think these are going to trade in the same way, like in the same demand that NBA Top Shots do, because there's a player and you have a skill set and you have points. Whereas like the 1996 Space Mountain pin, like historical collection, that's
pretty cool. That's a cool concept though. That's a cool concept to think about. Like, will I be able to buy the like 1992 Indiana Jones one? Like, that's pretty cool. I mean, Alex, you were pretty heavy in what was it, the Dr. Seuss?
Dr. Seuss. Yeah.
Dr. Seuss sent it to me.
I was a whale. Dr. Seuss whale. I still have it. I have like
Dr.
7 full sets of the what is it, series 1? I don't even know what it's called.
So I think there's 2 things to bring up here. One is the Dr. Seuss component, and the second is actually someone was the Vive component. Those are 2 interesting like kind of comparables to think through when we think about what the entrance to the market will look like for this. What are your thoughts on this?
So my thoughts are actually a little different. I think this is like there were a lot of Fortune 500 massive brands that were coming into Web3 right before FTX. Like there was a lot. And I personally know, like off the top of my head, I could think of 10 Fortune 500 companies that were going to do something in Web3. Everyone had it on their slate. And then FTX happened. Then actually it was like SVB, even though it had nothing to do with crypto. For some reason, big brands and Fortune 500 companies looked at SVB and like the whole banking stuff that was like happening, and also got scared because remember, like at the same time, they used that opportunity to shut down a few like crypto supporting banks. And so I think a lot of companies were going to come like they were like going to ape into Web3 in a Web3 way, and then I think a lot of them went back and said, okay, we do want to do digital stuff because like we understand that the digital world makes sense. So we're going to come back with a less speculative thing. And we're going to come back with maybe something that's just a digital collectible. It's not tradable. It's there's utility attached to it. And I think this is like the start of a handful of those. I know a few more that are coming soon that are like not Degen focused. They're just digital.
It's good
collectibles. And so and then, as they feel more comfortable, they may open up where, like, I know there's a big Fortune 500 company that's coming with, digital collectibles with utility, and they're not tradable. You just get the thing and then you get the utility and that's it. And then maybe if they feel more comfortable, they'll open up that maybe you could sell it. And there's a little bit of a marketplace there. So that's my take, is they're just like the first to rejigger, or maybe this was just their plan all along and now it just makes more sense. But I think there's a lot of the brands that, because I don't know if you guys remember, but there was so much coming in terms of and then it just all sort of fell off the cliff when the scandal started sort of coming out.
So one of the questions that was asked on the YouTube side was, Disney has worked with Vivi.
I was just about to bring that up.
Vive or Vivi? Was it? Anyone know how to say it?
Vive.
Vive.
I've noticed.
I'm curious why they went to Dapper. So the reason I think the entire thing with Vive didn't work is, one, it was a closed marketplace, right?
Wait, so I wouldn't say. By the way, I wouldn't say that hasn't worked yet. They're still selling great IP.
Oh yeah, they're still doing volume.
They're still doing volume.
They're still doing volume, but whereas a pin has an audience, a 3D asset that you could like resize for your living room is like, okay, cool, but like, I mean, I own some sort of like digital Captain America's, shield, and like I have the ultra luxury, I don't know, like one of 100. I don't know the differences between all of the different packages. It was very NFT related, but it didn't have that value or utility of anything in my life. Whereas the people buying these pins already like collect them, like they wear them, they trade them. So you have a different type of market than this kind of,
than the people that are kind of coming at this for 3D NFTs. I actually agree with you. I think that's also plays well into why I think crypto is so interesting, because people understand collecting action figures, and they have a very similar relatable experience where you unwrap and you have to make decisions. Do I unwrap the figure? Do I leave it mint, or do I play with it? Like there's some nuance to that, but I think the relatable experience is a really kind of valuable thought, a valuable approach. So yeah, all right, let's keep it rolling. I think we're now moving to Degen with Drew. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I have been buying today and this week. So this week, my NFT purchases have been focused in one specific area. I've decided I got into, a couple different areas, but the number one has been the memes, the Punk 6529 memes. I went through, I've been kind of looking at like some of the top tier artists, because like my thesis during this upcoming movement of NFTs is around collectability and art, rather than like some big need for utility as the big value creation, because I think that people are a little just tired of the what's going to come next, roadmap, etc. Like I think there's an opportunity right now for true collectability and true art to shine. So I was starting to go through some of the artists that I really love, and I realized I didn't have any X copy pieces. I don't know if any of you guys have any X copies, but I didn't have any. So I was looking at all of his different works, and I noticed like he was part of the Punk 6529 drop. He did one of those drops, and I think he's in season 1. It's called Exit Strategy, and he has 400. There's 420 editions of this one, which actually is like of the amount of like different collections that he has. I don't know, like he's got one that has like 8,000 editions. The one
that was the Nifty Gateway. That was the Nifty Gateway one. It came out at, I think it was $1,000. So it was basically one ETH. It was right around like when ETH was hitting 1,000. And so definitely
it was too much supply for me personally. I just didn't want to. That wasn't one of the ones that I was really interested in. So I ended up buying the Exit Strategy. I got one at about 2.5 ETH or 2.4 ETH. And then I bought, and then I kind of went with I thought back to my old strategies of like, okay, it's been a little while since I've been buying NFTs. Let me think back to how I approached this. And I went with my old strategy of if you like something, buy two, one to stock, one to rock. Because like, I do know that like, I am the kind of collector that will invest in NFTs and artworks for the long haul. And I could see myself holding X copy for a while. So my thesis here is there's about 2 or 3 of them between now. On the ones that are listed, I looked at the market. I was like, okay, there's 3 right now between 2.65 ETH and 7.1 ETH. So I'm like, if those 3 get sold and its floor is back to 7.1 ETH, I would be comfortable listing at around 6.5 to 7 ETH taking a two and a little bit more X and being able to hold my original one with no investment or no cost. So that's kind of the thesis I have on that one. I think it's in a bull market. I think people are going to find their ways to some of the top tier collectibles and art. And I think and then I went deeper into the meme collection. Again, I don't know if you guys have spent much time on this one, but like I was wildly impressed with the artists that he's recruited to participate in the meme collection. I like never was blown away by it originally, but like I'll tell you, I bought about 4 or 5 more that were kind of lower cost ones, but just with artists that I really love, and I'll just mention them quickly. I bought one. It's called Red Pilled. It's one of the memes from Meme Season 2, and the artist is Guido. He's a photographer who I think is phenomenal. I own a bunch of his pieces. Really beautiful piece. He's an amazing artist, amazing photographer. So I grabbed one of his of $6.99, edition $6.99. I grabbed another artist that I just kind of went after the artists that I wanted to collect. I'm not like saying, oh, I need to collect every one for these, but DK, those who know DK, like he does a lot of animation. He's been, very established NFT artist. He has one called GM Everyone, another meme. There's 700 of them in the collection. I think the floor right now on those is about 0.25, 0.3. I grabbed one of those. I had to grab one of, when I was looking, I'm like, when you have Grant Riven-Young, like, who's like, again, one of the more famous Web3 artists out there right now, I was like, this is incredible that he's been able to recruit this level of talent to that collection. And I don't know much about Punk 6529. Do you guys know anything about Punk 6529? Mike, Alex, anyone? I don't really know his story.
I mean, besides reading his stuff, and I mean, he's got really great threads. No, I mean, I don't know who he is. I know one of his partners is based in Miami, but I don't know. I know he.
So yeah, I didn't know much about him either. But
yeah, just a handful of folks. I mean, a few folks know who he is. OG, brilliant person. But I think it's verboten to talk about publicly.
Yeah, I think
good word.
It's about the ideas. The beauty of
it's the idea.
Somebody like that is, when you're so consistent, clear, thoughtful, persistent, and creative, the ideas speak for themselves. You don't even need, the person behind the ideas, right?
Yeah,
you don't need to know.
And I just
Drew,
think,
are you in a toilet stall? I just saw a man.
No, that was my buddy John. He was walking by. I'm in his office today.
He's like, I'm in the bathroom of the office. Yes.
It does look like a stall.
It kind of does look like a stall a little bit, though.
If I had a newspaper right now, this would be gold. So yeah, and the last one I grabbed was a Hackatow. Anyway, I thought it was worth bringing up because I think that's a really.
I love that the freedom to transact one from Arsonic. I did own it for.
I have one. I have one.
Yeah, I sold most of my NFTs. Like I hold very few, but that's one that I love, and I'll probably buy that again at some point as art. Like that's the kind of thing that's fun. I'll probably hang in the office. The kids will be like, "Daddy, why is there a frog in the office?"
Yeah, exactly.
Let me tell you about Pepe.
Exactly. Let me tell you. Come on, sit on my knee. Let me tell you a story about Pepe. So anyway, that's this week in the Degen with Drew. And then let's get into this was an interesting conversational topic today. So someone asked if you were starting an NFT project in this market and all the learnings and discoveries that you've had in the past, how would you approach it? What would you do? So I want to open that up because we've all been pretty close to this stuff. I think that I would probably tell you run for the hills. But
no, there's a way. There's a way to launch one right now. I've thought about this topic a lot.
Give me your thoughts. Let's go.
All right. So there's a few things you need to consider, right? The first is I think everything comes down to supply and demand. I think that's the big mistake a lot of people will be making.
Scarcity.
Is that the 10,000 collection does not make sense, right? So probably the best performing NFT over the past few months that launched in this market is a collection of 3,333, right? So I would make sure that whatever I do, the supply is, let's call it sub 4,000, but closer to 2,500 to 3,500. And that one's like Sproto. Remember the crazy? They're still at 0.7. That's just because there's not so much supply. It's only 3,000 of them. So, I would make sure that the supply is low. I would start to think, because OpenSea in February is taking away, I mean, they'll probably be dead by then, but like OpenSea's taking away royalties. All right. So you have Magic Eden coming up. I would also maybe not think of Ethereum. I think of probably Solana right now, just because it's hot. But Ethereum's always a safe place to be, because there's just a lot of money there. But I would before even thinking about what I'm doing, I would make sure the fundamentals are sound, because you could really just like come up with an amazing idea, and if you have too many NFTs and you misprice it, or like you have to figure out, should it be free with royalties or should it be priced? Am I never going to get any royalties? It depends on what you want to do. But like, I think in the end of the day, you always need great art. You always need a great reason why you're doing it, but you can't screw up on the fundamentals anymore. And that's like, if I was starting in, I'd have a much, much smaller collection of people who are actual holders that got like holder benefits. And then I would treat everyone else as a consumer and tell them they're consumers, and not try to be like, no, you're an investor. It's like, no, you're a holder, you're a collector. You're going to get holder collector benefits, and everyone else is a consumer. And if those consumers start thinking they're investors, it's like buying Jordan shoes and thinking that you are now investor in Nike. You're not.
I totally hear that. Mike, let me hear your perspective on this part. What would be your go-to-market strategy to get through the noise? Like, how do you, if you are starting an NFT project right now in this market, in this world, in this space, like, how do you resonate in this? It's a noisy space. How do you resonate? How do you get to the audience?
Yeah, so I don't candidly have a tremendous amount. Like, it just isn't something that I would do right now, because I've thought about it and I've had this question. People are saying it, in all of these, the L2 ecosystems, I mean, are just ripe for. So what are ripe for the taking, by the way. Like, I might, launch one again on like an Arbitrum or an Optimism where just nothing exists. Like, but there actually is. What's that?
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah. Just where there's hot balls of money. And you need to I think Alex said it perfectly. Like, I don't know about edition size. I don't have a deeply strong opinion. 10,000 is probably too many. I agree with that. But I do think that you need to be crystal clear about either this is art and this is just fun collectible, or it's utility, but do not muddy the two. The best model of this right now that I've seen is, it's a silly project. You've probably seen me post ducks with French fries on his head as my profile pic once or twice. It's a stupid fun project on Solana called Quexz, Quexz. It's ugly ducks. I'll probably get kicked out of the group for saying this, but basically they say no utility, no anything. But if you buy 20 of them, and these are things you can do, like if you collect a bunch, we've got a great chat, a Telegram chat. You become a noble, Again, there's no utility in actuality, but you're in a group with some really great minds, great people, shared silly interests. And, frankly, that's important. So I mentioned that. And again, Solana's tight enough that you can actually get together a number of the biggest brains in a group like that. So I think Arbitrum, Optimism, some of these other roll-ups are places where you could probably do that today and recreate it. Solana, you probably can too. And then what I would say is pricing them appropriately low is important, and don't try to run a business off of one of these NFT projects, for Christ's sake. The mint, trying to mint and get royalties, that ain't the play anymore. It's bringing together people who, want to have a shared interest and good time. And hey, if price starts going up because people like being part of the group, then you can really do some, you can do some interesting things.
So I think all you guys had very, very, great points. The business model of yesteryear will not work in this market. I shared with you guys yesterday or today a company that I hadn't heard of. that is reaching out to raise money in the same model as kind of last year, 2 years ago, where they're saying, okay, we're trying to be, we're trying to be the next Disney, right? And so we're going to cater this project to kids, and we're going to make merch, and we're going to make revenue off of IP, royalties, and our mint. Get the fuck out. That shit ain't going to work no more, right? I think new NFT projects have to have utility. They have to be dynamic. It has to be connected with the chain you're working with. I think there's going to be significantly more tie-ins with kind of like a new form of NFT. And so, I hate to pitch, Mist and Labs and Sui and what we're doing, but it's also on Solana, there's Backpack, right? So you're not looking at what NFTs were last year. You were looking at what NFTs can be in the future. And
Anoop, have you seen any NFTs yet on Mist and Labs and Sui? Actually, I'm curious about that.
Yeah, we got a marketplace. So we got this one project that came over from the Solana ecosystem called Fuddies. And they're very similar to what Dudas was just saying about that project on Solana. It is, it's funny memes. They talk about just rug pulling all the time. If you own 5, you're in a private chat with the largest collectors. You're in this group with, some of the biggest whales on Sui. You can talk to all these individuals. So I think really where on Sui, where NFTs will be interesting is dynamic NFTs. And that's part of the way that our technology is kind of structured. But NFTs that do more than one thing, that give you access to something else, that can transform based on your interactions, things that are just, like a static PFP isn't going to do it in the next cycle. It's not going to, like Taub was saying, 10,000, definitely not going to work. Significantly lower supply. I think new types of marketing, actually, more ease of use for non-native Web3 users. So I think we're probably going to see, I worked at Nifty Gateway during, the peak times, and Nifty Gateway did about $750 million of credit card volume. And it was the only marketplace that was doing credit card volume. And so I think we're going to see more of that with integrations of like Crossmint, Magic Wallet, kind of like these, there's a lot of middleware providers that now exist that have integrations to Stripe and to these other credit card providers that are going to let you buy something that is a digital asset as defined by the credit card companies. It's not buying a crypto asset. And that way you're going to have like this, these Magic Wallet type of wallets that are not fully non-custodial. It allows you to sign in through your Gmail. Like the ease of that part, I think, is going to transform who the collector is.
I'll say a couple of quick things in our last 2 minutes here. One, I think that I do think that I'm very curious to see how new technology enables new NFT experiences. So I think the fact that an NFT can become a wallet in and of itself, I think that opens up a lot of really interesting concepts that we will see more of, and we'll see some really interesting use cases of. So I'm very interested to see people challenge the technical constraints and open up new opportunities for NFTs through that. I do think that things that when I think about NFT projects that have chances to be successful, I do think that if you could find a parallel of a collector, like we've just talked about, basketball cards, pins, things like, I've always thought that I'm surprised no one's come up with the Tamagotchi or Pogs yet, like things of that nature that people understand at a physical level, and the digital version of it makes it just more accessible, more collectible, and brings it and kind of reinvents it and brings it back. So I've always thought that those types of relatable concepts can thrive and be successful. The other area, which and I'll say this back from my Knights Degen experience, I think that having a specific topic or shared interest that kind of goes beyond the NFT, like, if you're in the Bored Ape group, it's like, what did Bored Apes do? What did Bored Apes do? What did Bored Apes do? What are they doing? But like for us, with Knights, I always thought it was cool that we could talk about sports. What game was on tonight? What are you doing for fantasy? What are you betting on? It gave us something to talk about when the NFT didn't have to be the center of the conversation at all times. And I think there are a lot of opportunities for like those types of, like, I'm another one that I think is really interesting, and I don't know if it's the right time for it yet, but it could be in the near future. Could a Bravo kind of NFT, like my wife watches all those Bravo shows, would a Bravo community be a fun NFT that was focused on reality TV and events and experiences and connecting you to the bringing in the celebrities, letting them join the discords, free access to the reality TV shows, etc. Like because there's this shared interest that everyone there can talk about, and then the NFT can unlock unique access, and you have this built-in audience that you know who you're targeting and you know who you're marketing to. So, I think there are a lot of opportunities like that. What are you thinking? Wait up, you're muted.
One thing with that is that I don't think it's going to be on Discord. If you get a Bravo,
sure.
Like it's going to be a similar gated experience, but like Discord is just so Web3 gaming that you're not going to get that mass audience of Web2 users over there.
I'm shocked that no one's, there was a period of time, Mike, I don't know if you saw this, but like there was a period of time where there was a new pitch for a Discord disruptor, like almost every month. And not one of them have actually prevailed. Not one. So it's interesting.
And Discord's used by like every type of community now. I wouldn't say it's just like one type of group. Like you have streamers who use Discord. You have, I think, honestly, the trick of Discord is just shutting off notifications on the ones you're not in, or leave them. The only reason I never left any Discords is because I remember one time someone did a token drop that it depended on how long you were in the Discord. And I was like, all right, I'm never leaving any Discord. I'm just shut off all the notifications of all of them, but I'm never leaving because in the event there's a future airdrop that I need to be in.
Just said that for so there's sort of cross-chain airdrop. So
smart.
Really?
Yeah. All right, guys. All right, let's head to let's wrap it up for this week. Guys, I think we're gonna stick with this Thursday 4 o'clock time. Looks like a good time to have a drink and talk about Web3. So seems like a fun one. Come join us next week. Thursday, YouTube.
Next Thursday is Thanksgiving, brother.
Oh, Thanksgiving. So not next week, the week after. Sorry. We'll take next week off, and the week after we'll be back for the Few podcast. And thanks so much for joining us, and take care.